Hello and welcome to the Winners Find a Way show. I am your host, Trent Clark, CEO of Leadershipity. I am working with organizations all the time to double their EBITDA very fast. I speak globally all over the world with over 17 countries, 5-star results. I love it. And I am the new author of Leading Winning Teams. And most people know me, though, because I spent over 13 years in professional baseball coaching and 3 World Series. I am thrilled this show to welcome Dr. Michael Gerharz. Dr. Michael, how are you doing, my man?
I'm very good. I'm stoked to be here. Good to see you, Trent.
Yeah. Hey, you might know a little accent here. You might notice a little accent with Michael here. Michael is today in Cologne, Germany, where he lives, setting European on fire over there. And so you've been in Cologne most of the way here. You're in Europe and in Cologne, Germany, settled there. And man, you're an author. What do you have a day job? Do you have a day job, Michael?
Well, I help people, leaders, and their businesses, their teams find the right words so they can make the impact that they set out to make.
Yes. So that is the company, right? That's your main company. You've authored a number of books, obviously went to a long way. Anyone with a doctor in front of it went to school for a long time, right? Like that's always a critical element. So you've been a student of life, a student of these words, and you talked a little bit about like doing your PhD and having that funded by Nokia, right? The famous mobile communication company, and you were studying computer science and mobile communications. You talk a little bit about some of the big learnings out of like the PhD program and what you got out of that.
Yeah, I mean that was really exciting times, right? It was back when the mobile phone revolution was in full steam, was at its peak, and well, being at the front of science during that time was really a great time for us. We were really invested into, well, at times spending the weekends just working through, because well, we were so excited about the things that we did there. And well, we witnessed some ideas really take off and changing the world, right? I mean, who doesn't use a phone these days? I mean,
Yeah.
that just went on to conquer the world. Not that I was personally involved in inventing the phone. I was just, well, dialing those very tiny wheels that contribute a little bit to advancing that. But well, it was certainly fascinating to see these ideas conquer the world. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I also saw actually way more ideas, brilliant other ideas, die and become forgotten because no one cared for finding better words. Because people just thought that, well, these ideas would win on their own. We don't have to care for finding the words that get people really stoked about this. And so they put up those boring PowerPoints, or those engineer or tech jargon that no one knows what to make of. And so no one got excited. And so these ideas just couldn't make an impact.
That's it's funny that you say that, right? Because I'm immediately taken back to like when I was a kid, VHS came out and the VHS tapes, right? Versus high 8, beta tapes, right? Betamax. And the Betamax player was like close to HD now. Terrible messaging. Like their words were awful.
Brilliant
And
example, yeah.
in addition, VHS went and got Paramount Studios, Fox Studios, and they signed all those. So they positioned themselves and said, hey, we're the best. There's these little piece of crap plastic. The quality was bad. They'd break. And yet we had this chance and opportunity to bring electronics so far ahead so quickly, and we blew it because of cost, because of bad messaging, and it set us back 20 years.
And you know what?
Who it set back?
You know what?
Yeah.
You know what also happened? I think that there's another factor that contributed to that, because I feel like that messaging that failed, that was in part due to the fact that they wanted people to appreciate the brilliance, the technical magic behind it. Yeah. So they put the spotlight on themselves, and they wanted people to cheer for what a great technical feast that was. while VHS just didn't care for all that spotlight. They just, well, here's the technology, here's how to use it. You are the hero of the life because you can now record the shows. And they made that as simple as possible. And I think that's a very stark difference, to not make yourself the hero of the show, but your customers.
Yeah, that's a great example. I'll tell you what that set back in our country. To me, that set back hockey and soccer, and football. Football is a massive thing in your country. Love it. We saw one of our top players go over first, couldn't make his name as an 18, 17-year-old in the league, right? And that was amazing. But before high definition TV, hockey was impossible to follow the puck. Like you're trying to watch the TV, it's pixelated, it's trash, black and white has no chance, right? And the same thing with soccer. You've got to screen wide to see action, to see what's happening in the play. Well, these TVs are crap, and you're like, yeah, that's so boring. I don't know what's going on. I don't. Why is the player going? What's this other guy doing way on the other side of the field? It looks like a little dot because the quality of the screen is crap. Except those two sports that I think in my mind very quickly. Those two sports were massively impacted because of the technology.
That's a good point. I never thought about it like that, but yeah, you might be onto something here. Yeah.
Yeah, going on CBS and Fox and NBC's listening, but so now I need to embrace it. I can watch it and really honor and see the skill of it and see it up close and go, whoa, this Messi guy, incredible. And well, let's watch the Bundesliga. We have it every morning on the weekends on our TVs now because of the way we've advanced in technology. So it's grown a ton and it's exciting stuff. Now, you've always been in this kind of word space, right? What's for a kid, publish your first book, like, hey, you do a great book, and you want a teacher that encourages you, that gives you great feedback. There's that one person that comes along in our lives and makes an impact. And it sounds like this was a key element for you to get you to where you really wrote this fabulous book on presentation called The Aha Effect. And talk to us about that impact of that person.
Well, yeah, that teacher was, well, as you framed it, it was a gift for me. So that teacher, Mr. Danner was his name, made us an offer during the first session of our physics course in high school. And he offered us the opportunity to send him in a written essay about every topic that we talked about in the course. Which sounds like something that only like the stupid students would choose who have no other life apart from school, right? So, but I happen to be one of those, and so I took that offer, and two other students took that, and I feel that this was such a generous game changer for me that the teacher provided me with, because he not only gave me factual feedback, he also checked it for understandability and also style. So, is that really the best way to express your thoughts? And I think that early exposure to the love of words and to the impact that these words can make, those were not only instrumental for me really nailing my final exam, where the school principal said during his speech during the ceremony that my teacher actually had tears in his eyes when reading that exam. It also allowed me to find those words or start looking for those words during my time at the university, and then appreciating what I captured in the later book, The Aha Effect, where I thought, well, that's actually something that you can do, and that's within reach. That the words you choose to express your thoughts really do make a difference. And when you just care a little more, your ideas will have so much bigger chances to making an impact.
How do you spell the aha? So our readers know the A. Is it A-H-A, or how do you do aha? How do you write that?
It's A-H-A. It's
just all one word like that. Aha.
Yeah. Aha effect.
Okay. Nice. All right. So that's cool. Okay. So you are in Cologne. You meet this little girl when you're in elementary school, which is pretty cool. And you become friends. And then, like, life goes on, blah, blah, blah. Much later in life, you come back and see this young lady again and become, your friendship is still alive. You become even better friends and ultimately marry her, 3 children, now with one at uni, right? 14, 16, 18. So you got one at uni now. So this is all evolving as the family of the Gerharz. And so this is fun. And one thing that probably most people don't know about you is that you and your lovely wife have this little second life of toy licensing, right? And you have both Sleepy Caps, a massive plush toy in Germany. Another one is Grumble Troll, where you've written book series on that. Also a plush toy to go along that. So this is something you and your wife do. Is this like, hey, this is our hobby of stuff we want to do together, create multi-million-dollar, plush toys? Is that it?
Well, that actually grew out of chance. So, opportunity was there, and we just took it. Right? It was, well, no one. We didn't plan for that. So, after our youngest daughter was born, my wife happened to, well, do some do-it-yourself workshops, to help some friends out. And they happened to love it. And they invited other friends in. And so my wife started to think about, so what do I do with those guys? So can I take them a little bit further on their do-it-yourself journey? And she started to invent patterns, like to create bags or some shirts for the children and stuff like that. And also to create plush toys. And one of those toys we thought was just brilliant. We really fell in love with that. And we thought, well, this is way bigger than just for the die community. We got to get those into many more children's hands. And then we sat down one weekend. It was a Sunday. It was pretty sunny in spring. And we just Googled the name of the managing director of one of Germany's largest toy manufacturers. And we just shot him an email. And then the next morning, we got a reply. Well, these are adorable. Could you send over some prototypes? Which we did. And then a week after, the managing director sat at our table negotiating a worldwide licensing deal. And, well, that was just, well, it came literally out of nowhere for us. They were immediately all into that. They created a TV spot for that and launched it basically worldwide. And that got us started to think, well, wait a second. What works once could work a second time. And we did it again. We tried it again and then again and again. And suddenly we were like, so here are 5 licenses. And we were like, out of nowhere, that little brand of a computer scientist and a biology teacher just, well, seemed to conquer the toy industry, at least here in Germany. And yeah, but at some point we decided, well, that's a lot of fun, but it's also just a hobby. It's a hobby for us. It's something that we're incredibly proud of whenever we walk into a shop and see one of these products that we made, and that we see like a little child pulling out pulling out and falling in love with and taking home with them. That's just adorable for us. But it's something that we're proud of in the sense that you're proud of your hobbies.
I think that's pretty cool because, it's the same with a book, right? I mean, you feel good about when you see the aha effect or the path or strategic impact, and you're walking through and your book's on the shelf and someone goes, oh, I've heard this is a really good book. And they pick it up and you're like, yeah, it is. Like, I wrote that, right? Like, I appreciate that, man. Like, I had no idea, man, as an author. I had no idea what I was signing on for. My book is published by Wiley, big publishing house, like over 200 years old, blah, blah, which is a long time in our country, right? That's a long time.
Yeah.
And so, I know in Europe it's not that much. Like our whole history of the United States is like a cliff note to most of Europe, right? But
Yeah.
but a publishing company
It's
that's
like
been
yesterday
producing
over here.
stuff. Exactly. Well, what century? Whatever, man. Like, um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny, right? We're not going to talk about Louis VIII or anything. But it is crazy, man. I mean, but when we think about a company here in the States who've been publishing something over 200 years, we start thinking like, man, that's well over 2/3 or 3/4 of our country's time, right? So
Yeah.
it's a big deal. But man, I really underestimated the work. I'm like you. I'm a presentation guy. I've been out there studying presentation a long time. I'm thinking I've told most of these stories on a stage somewhere. How hard is this going to be to put into paper? Woo. Yeah, it was a significant challenging year. I'll say
It
that.
is. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the path to strategic leadership. That's your newest work. And man, this is one of these things when you talk about strategy, man. I do a lot of this work. I work with a lot of organizations, and it's hard. It's hard working through what's our direction, what we're gonna do, and we spend sometimes days working at that, and then really, Michael, that's the light work because now you have to go execute on it, right? Now you have to go do it. And so your book is written for now what's that path? What is that path to that impact? Is that fair?
Exactly. I mean, the story often ends sadly, right? Yeah, you've made that effort. You've gone through the project. You've done the analysis. You've come up with that bold vision and that smart strategy. It crosses all the boxes from the famous books. It's really well thought out. You're pumped. You're enthusiastic. The whole leadership stands fully behind it. But then, like 3 weeks after, nothing's changed. And 3 months later, it's completely forgotten, right? And the worst part of the story is that you continue the same effort next year, only to experience the same story all over again, and then again and again, and it's so frustrating. And so what we often overlook, what so many businesses overlook, is that in a way, although it feels like that kind of brain crunch work is the hard part, it's actually the easy part, as you put it. Because what use is a smart strategy if we can't get our team behind it, if we can't find the words that help our team understand. So, what does that brilliant strategy now mean for the everyday choices that I need to make down on the ground? And unless we can bridge that gap, all that hard work, all that brilliance is just wasted time.
Well, and it is hard work. It is exhausting. You come out of those 2 days together while exhilarated and ready. It's also like, wow, that was a lot. I mean, I set my schedule aside. Now I'm also coming back. If you and I go do this Thursday, Friday, I'm coming back Monday to a boatload of email I haven't checked, right? And I'm behind because I just spent 2 days off site. And so it'll be dig out, right? And I get that. But a strategy for execution is so critical to me. I tell a lot of folks, Michael, like, you win every day. You just can't write the plan and then not execute on the plan. I love the old adage, plan the work, then work the plan, right? Because we do a really good job of planning the work. Self-implementation is extremely hard, Michael. I mean, most folks will not hold themselves accountable. They do not understand the pain exchange. That's my famous TEDx talk. They don't understand that discipline of what it's going to take every day. And I think the also thing we want, Michael, is after we've built this great strategy is, hey, we could have this in place by the next 30 days. Like, hell no, you can't have it in 30 days. Like, this thing is going to be tough and hard. And this may be 3 years away to complete. And we got to build out 12 quarters of work for that. Is that fair?
Yeah. If you just look at the great companies out there, no one's got it figured out after a 2-day strategy retreat, right?
Yeah.
It just doesn't work that way. Most of these companies, the companies that changed our culture, all of them were built over years, if not decades, and they refined their strategy whenever they had the opportunity to do so. So it isn't about getting it right from the start, but getting it right eventually, doing the tweaks when necessary, and then knowing how to do that, how to see that path and light it for your team. That's the real art, I think.
Well, I think the other side of this is like, as authors, we can appreciate this, that there's a lot of textbooks as we're going through university says, hey, this is step 1 through 10. It's going to work perfect. And under those conditions, it may, but like in our organization, those are not our conditions. Some of them are the same, but many of them are different. And then when we try, they go, oh, this textbook's all wrong. It won't work because we tried it. Like, no, man, you're going to have to do iterations of this because the conditions are different. You are going to have to challenge. You are going to have to remove obstacles and identify opportunities inside this journey to get to where you want to get. And it's going to take a lot of people's mind power, a lot of people's energy, a lot of the share to get this and actually execute. So let's talk about a couple things of the book, maybe 3 key takeaways here of the path to strategic impact.
Let's make it 4 because path happens to be that convenient acronym that has that great double meaning of, well, it's the path. I mean, what a great coincidence is, right? You're about winners find a way. So, and the book is basically now that you found the way, how do you light the path, right? So what's the path that we're on, and how, and that path is actually a great acronym that covers what I think are the most fundamental principles of communication. And let me just quickly walk you through those. So P is plain and simple. Can you find words that everyone on your team can understand and knows what they mean, so that you have you really share the understanding? So what are we even talking about here? What is the core of our strategy? Then A is actionable. So can you find words that translate it into the everyday choices that we need to make? Because let's face it, the strategy or the success, the impact is not decided in the boardroom. It's decided by the thousands of everyday choices that happen across the organization. And when you find words that make your strategy actionable in the sense that everyone knows how to make those choices, what a right choice looks like, then your chances will have skyrocketed. T is transformative. So how can you make those choices, those actions, not just the average stuff, not just playing by the rules, but so that you encourage the bold moves, because that's what's going to change the game, right? That you're going to leap ahead. And do you encourage and trust your team with those bold choices? And what you need for that is the 4th principle, H, heartfelt. Can you find words that the team and you deeply believe in about the things that you deeply care about, so that you know, so that the business goals and the personal goals align, and that everyone's pushing in the same direction, not just to do you a service, not just because it's a job, because that's what we deeply believe in.
Love it. Let's talk a little bit about that, because one of the things, and you've mentioned this a couple times, smart goal setting, right? This is great for me because I have found a lot of organizations struggle to start with that S of be specific, like exactly say what you mean. Words matter. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And one of the first things that really matters to me is, Michael, you and I don't work together every day, but we're friends. And when you tell me like, hey, here's my specific goal, I have this network of like 30, 40,000 world beaters, right? And when you tell me specifically in a plain and simple way, in an actionable matter of what it looks like to make a choice, in a transformative, bold statement of what you're going for that is heartfelt, I'm going to know exactly when something comes across my way and go, hey, I know a guy named Michael Gerharz that you need to talk to, and I'm going to connect those two. I don't work for you. I don't get paid to commission, to help you, but we are friends and I'm happy to do that. And now everyone in the network, everyone in alignment in an organization, when they get that, the focus and clarity goes very tight. And that is power.
Exactly. Yeah.
Tell me tell me
that's
how you've seen people. Yeah. Tell me how you've seen that show through that power with organizations you've worked through.
Well, I've worked for that team where I was called in because, well, the lead, the CEO was so frustrated about all these great ideas that team came up with, but that somehow didn't make a significant impact. And the problem wasn't that, well, the team wasn't smart or that they weren't passionate about their work. They were showing up. They were bursting with ideas. But the problem was that all of these ideas were all over the place. They were quickly distracted by the new customer that had that new requirement or the new trend that they were trying to chase. So they had literally, like, every day that there was a different promise. And so there were brilliant campaigns that they thought up, brilliant activities that they and initiatives that they launched, but they couldn't have an impact because it confused customers and partners. Today you're making this promise, and tomorrow it's another. And the moment that we realized this and that we aligned this and focused on one core promise, that all of the initiatives paid tribute to, that led to inevitably, then their trajectory could change. So that there was one promise made in plain and simple English that they said to each and every customer at each and every occasion. And that really changed the trajectory of their campaigns. Suddenly, all these ideas paid into one common goal along one shared path, rather than spreading all over the place in 100 different directions.
I mean, I think one of the things that's interesting is, like, your country, almost as a whole, where we pigeonhole the German culture, is a very forthright, bold communication of, it doesn't feel very compassionate, right? It feels very curt, to the point, and straightforward. I mean, I would think of anyone in the world, your country would really understand this and not be so challenged by this. Yet the science, yet the pride. We should talk about how brilliant I am for coming up with this. The little things that deter us from getting this right are significant. How do we stop people from mincing the words? I mean, I go back to, because in marketing, you see it done pretty well, right? Nike, just do it. Like, we get these things where, like, you get where people really understand that path and they can communicate that really well. Where are most people tripped up?
I mean, that example that you just gave, that's basically the best advice that you can get, right? Just do it. And what a lot of people do is the complete opposite of that. They think and think again and think again, and what they do try to achieve is come up with that super eloquent way of saying things, that larger than life slogan with those fancy words that feel like we're right headed towards the next literature Nobel Prize, right? But that's not what impactful communication looks like. Impactful communication is often not larger than life. It's out of life. It's the plain and simple words that we are familiar with from our everyday lives. Just take another brilliant slogan like that original iPod slogan, 1,000 songs in your pocket.
Yeah.
I think it was originally.
Just thinking of that.
Just 1,000. So So and that's just brilliant because, well, I mean, every competitor of Apple at that time bragged about their 3 gigabyte hard drive. So what does that even mean? And why, in what way is that relevant to me for listening to my music? I want to carry my music library with me. And 1,000 songs was like the whole music library that a lot of us had back then.
Sure.
That's like 100 CDs. And who had more than that, right? It's your entire music library right in your pocket. And so the brilliance is not only, so many people attribute the brilliance to that translation of 3 gigabyte to 1,000 songs. I think the actual brilliance lies in the second part, the pocket. You put that in your pocket. You bring that technology in my life. And there's nothing fancy about that. That's not larger than live language. It's just plain and simple language. Bring it into my everyday life in a way that I can see it, almost touch it. And I think that's the trap. Don't shoot for
Yeah.
the eloquent, super fancy, shoot for the plain and simple.
It's such a great example, right? The Apple, and here's the thing, and most people don't remember this because I might be dating myself, Michael. Like, when we talk about 10,000 songs in your pocket, right? There were MP3 players that were far superior to the iPad. I remember, I think it was Creative who had one. Creative Labs had one with an AM/FM, a voice recorder. You could use your voice recorder on it. It had the MP3. It had so much to it, and it could all do the same. But they didn't have the words. They did not have the words. Like, I'm sure they were talking about. We have download speeds of X amount of hertz, and you're like, who understands what you're talking about?
Exactly, and that's actually an interesting interrelationship between communication and product here, because they made their life exceptionally hard by including all that stuff, which made it hard to really explain. So what is that thing? It's not just 1,000 songs in your pocket, because it's also a radio, right? And so Apple didn't have that problem. But now, actually, I think it's the other way around. They skipped that problem because they started with, so what are we actually going to build? We're going to build a device that allows you to carry 1,000 songs in your pocket. You don't need a radio for that. So the communication actually informs you about the product choices that you need to make to be razor sharp on the market.
I tell you, have you ever heard of the 3-minute rule by Brent Pinvidic?
Yeah.
Yeah, Brant is a good friend of mine, and Brant, former Hollywood executive, right? You got to go pitch in The Bachelor or pitch in The Biggest Loser, and he's got 3 minutes to tell these executives the words and and paint that picture that will matter. I mean, it's amazing that that the iPod figured it out in like 5 words, right? 10,000 songs in your pocket, whatever, 1,000 songs in your pocket. Like, it's amazing because it was like 6 words, right? Like, didn't need 3 minutes for that. And it paints a perfect picture. You may not know how or why, but when you see it, it's not hard to understand. Man, I think there's that front side, right? There's that front side of getting your message across, which is big. But now there's this path. Let's talk about Winners Find a Way. We wrote this. The show is entitled that because of another good book, The 4 Disciplines of Execution. And in the 4 Disciplines of Execution, there's this quote that says, "Winners, when shown data that they are losing, find a way to win." Right? So they've been trying, they're practicing, they're working at whatever they're doing, and the data is set against them. This is not working. It's not working the right way. You're going to have to adapt, do something differently, and find a way to win. This is a solution-driven mindset. So, Michael, I'd love for you to walk our audience through sometime in your life where you were facing that. You're facing that challenge. And were you able to use the path back then, or you didn't actually transform this yet and have this all out? Like, where were you at? Walk us through one of your scenarios and how you came through that.
Let me just think of one occasion where that's a good match. And I'm gonna probably pick an example or a situation where at least it felt like we were facing bankruptcy.
Yeah.
As a family. So really, it felt to us like our whole income and everything that we owned was at stake. And it was a situation that happened to us in the toy industry, which is a lot less fun when you're inside of it as it looks from the outside, because in the end, it's a business, right? It's a business. And as I told you earlier, we were really quick at getting those deals across the industry, and some of our partners weren't really happy with that. They were used to being the commander, right? To telling their licensees how the game rolls, how the dice are rolled.
We call it calling the shots. Like they were used to calling the shots. Like
exactly.
We say how this goes. Yeah.
Yeah. And suddenly there were these two guys showing up, this couple, just playing the game differently, just not sticking with one manufacturer, but giving licenses across the industry. And one of the partners was really upset by that. They thought they had kind of licensed our whole intellectual property, basically our brains, right? So everything that we could think up. And when that other license showed up in the market, they threatened to sue us. They basically to bankruptcy, because they're big, we were a couple. And we were really scared by that. We were really scared. We didn't know how to. It was the first time in my life that I ever was faced with a threat like that I was ever faced with a letter from a lawyer. And so we really didn't know how to deal with that. But then we just, had a conversation. We looked us in our eyes. So what are we going to do? Are we just going to bend and give in and give them what they ask for and then basically give up? Or do we stand for what we believe in? What is a great idea? Because their threat meant that most of our other ideas couldn't see the light of day. Or do we stand up for those ideas and try to find a way that help them see the light of day? We went for that latter path, knowing that this is the high risk route. But we had one advantage over them. For them, we were like one of, 1,000, maybe 5,000, maybe 10,000 partners. But for us, they were the only one. We were razor focused on that conversation that we were going to have with them. And we went over the top with that, in order to appear as though you didn't have to prepare, you need to be prepared 10x. So we worked day and night through to get over every single argument that they could throw at us, and really played the devil's advocate at each other, and really were provocative at each other. Really, sometimes it got tense even between the two of us. But that helped us to avoid that same feeling in the meeting room, to stay calm, to really to really counter every argument that they could possibly throw at us in a calm and quiet way, and just call the bullshit for what it was. Today, knowing what I know today, I would have reacted probably very differently. I would probably set very strict and clear and much shorter boundaries than I did back then, but I didn't know what I know today, right? So we had to go through that learning curve. But that showed me that even as a total nobody, even as that David who's showing up against Goliath, you can win those games. You can, if you just get your work together, if you put in the effort, if you get serious about those things and prepare thoroughly, you can master those situations.
Yeah, I love that story. I love that story. One, because I was there. And I often, for people who are listening today, and you've never owned a business, I mean, being a part of a litigious operation is not uncommon when you are in business. Someone will sue you because they fell down your stairs at your store. Someone will sue you because they don't like the way you designed your logo and like they think it's close to their logo. And it is a very litigious environment now. And this is also strategic of big companies who have 20 to 30 lawyers inside their firms that they're paying for, and they take little mom and dad husband, wife, couple business and say, you don't have lawyers on retainer, so you are going to be paying lawyers for the rest of your life if you don't do what I want you to do, because we can keep paying. They're already on salary. We've already budgeted for them. And they know that, right? So there's a strategy there. So the little guy is not on an even playing field, right? And so this commerce and this world of commerce is a challenging road. And man, I just love the idea of, and we talk a lot about it on this show, confidence is prep and reps, right? So in order to get prepared, you started looking into all the things that were possible and scenarios that could happen. Then you sounds like you just role played the snot out of it together, going through all the whiteboarding, going through all of it, of how these scenarios could branch off and go different directions as we have this conversation to shore this up, which I just think is brilliant. I mean, I just think that's brilliant. Most people aren't doing the work to get prepared. And I like what you said, to seem like you're kind of unprepared and kind of nonchalant. We had to do 10x the work to make it look like that we weren't going to be surprised when someone threw a little twist or a wrinkle into the program and brought in the attorney, like, let's do a deposition. Like, okay. Like, whoa, we never signed on for that. We're not doing that. Like, and people think, well, you couldn't say no. They're the big brand and you need their license. You couldn't say no to their deposition. Of course I can say no. I don't have to do what they asked me to do, right? And so, we battle this right now. I've seen this here in the United States because for many years, our medical was like God complex, right? Well, the doctor said so. And I'm like, well, if you don't agree with the prognosis, like, you can go get a second opinion. And people are like dumbfounded, like, what do you mean? And I'm like, you don't have to give the medicine to your kid, man. Like you got another choice. Like, maybe you want to verify this. If it's not life or death, for goodness sakes, right? Yeah. Like, come on. Like, I have seen many people get, physical things, surgeries done that I think were totally optional. Like, I do not think they were necessary, right? And I'm like, and of course I have a degree in, physiology. So that background kind of plays into my role, but it's crazy that we don't do the work. I love that. Like, one of the things that's interesting to me, we talked a little bit offline here, was that, when you were back doing the mobile work, right? There's always, I love the way you describe it. There's these brilliant ideas that never get heard because they don't know how to message it, right? And I'm just like, and you were doing this ad hoc, mobile planning that today serves everybody in a tragedy. We had Katrina years ago here in the New Orleans area where, comms are knocked out, communications are down, and we rely so much on it now. It's like, how would you go without? We went out without for decades, right? Like, for decades we went without, and now we'd have to return to that, and we don't have an infrastructure for it anymore. You were working on ad hoc mobile methods that the mobile phone could act independently. How many years ago were you doing that?
I think it was like 20 years ago. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It's really still not out there. It's really still not out there.
That computer science is that fast-moving industry, but then again, well, these technologies, these really fundamental technologies, they take like decades to evolve.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is the funny thing. And I remember hearing about it, and you've probably seen this in German engineering, right? Which is, I've owned BMW, so I love the engineering, right? So like, when we think about that, we think, oh, like I remember someone going, oh, well, the electric vehicle, it'll take over everything in 5 years. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get a TO on that. Like, what are you talking about 5 years, man? Like that is not the way things move in technology, in anything, because we are creatures of habit, right? We don't accept that. But there are some things for good in this world that we're are we missing it because of commerce? Are we missing it because there's no money in it? Like, what do you think we're doing there?
Um, well, I'm not sure that that I'm in a position to make a call here, but I feel like that's something that's on both sides. The communicators just as much as the audience. That we would be we would probably do good at, well, not jumping at those high volume messaging that seems to take over the world. That in a place where everyone shouts as loud as they can for the new trends, and where we have like advice like, well, when everyone zigs, then zag. I happen to think that, well, have you considered just staying straight? So what happens if you just be consistent with what with your values, with what you set out to do? And yeah, listen to what the market and the world at large is doing, but probably you don't have to chase every trend. Probably you don't have to turn up the volume just because your competitors do, because it's not about persuading harder, it's about resonating stronger. And in the long run, those who resonate the strongest will probably end up surviving that battle of the volume crankers.
Yeah, well, I love this. I love this that, it's a great debate of how that really works in good communication. I mean, we're looking for, we're looking for trusted advisors to where do we go for good information? That's become a real challenge in the United States. We don't trust our media for anything, right? Like it's not something we feel good because it's loud. And by the way, it's been effective. Keep cramming a message down and eventually people just believe it's true. It's loud and then they find out, oh my gosh, that's not true. Like no crap, like common sense, man. like think through who wants you to believe this and why they want you to believe it. Snickers are good for you. They're not. Like I'm just telling you, taste great, yes, not good for you, man. And so like I think we're somehow, maybe because we want to believe it. Like I like Blinkist, right? Have you ever heard of Blinkist?
Yeah, sure, I know that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I like books in 15 minutes. I don't need to hear all the stories. I want the information in a quick package deal because I don't have a lot of time. I'd like to have the impact of all the great notes. I'd like to understand the path. Yeah.
I think
Go.
there's actually, I mean, I hear a lot of complaints about how bad that situation is, and that, well, somehow all that bullshit gets through and gets the attention. But I think in the end, there's only one way to react to that. And that is to ramp up your communication, to ramp up your storytelling game, to become just as good at telling stories as those bullshitters are. To the effect that when you manage to get to that level and people give you their attention, they will be delighted because you're actually going to serve them. You're actually going to keep the promises that you made. And so you're going to build trust rather than use it up as that media landscape that you were describing does, right? And so I think that's there's no alternative to that. We need, so the people who believe in better, they need to ramp up their storytelling game so that they can actually outcompete the bullshitters at what they do best.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to see someone I'd love to see someone who leads do it well over here, Michael, because we don't have anybody doing it very well. I'll tell you that. Like, but that for everyone
I'm
out there, like
happy
it's
to
a
fly
great
over.
yeah. Listen, there's a couple of presidential candidates who could use your help.
Yeah.
But I think that's the thing, right? There is a for the people out there listening, right? This is I think Dr. Michael Gerharz is here to hit it right on the head. He's got his path to strategic impact. Buy the book. It's fabulous stuff. You're going to love the PATH acronym, as we heard today. Plain and simple, actionable, transformative, heartfelt. Very important storytelling. Like, ramp this up. The impact is made in the story, not in the data. The data is important. We make good decisions based on data. But and while a lot of your accountants will tell you data tells a story, you have to be able to communicate that story to other. And words matter, because most stories aren't communicated in numbers, right? So we have to get that better. And I think the human nature understands it. But man, it sure would be great to sift through a lot of the garbage and move quicker to the voices that can really bring that story home.
Mm-hmm. Couldn't agree more.
Michael, if someone's out there, they're challenged today, they're facing adversity, and they got data that shows that they're not winning right now. They're looking to turn the tables on that. What would you recommend somebody do today?
I would suggest to first of all appreciate that it's never about being right in this moment, but getting it right eventually. And to look from the other side. So if you think that the others aren't getting it, aren't getting your messaging, look from their perspective. So not consider them as like, so what's wrong with them, but really ask, so how can a person that's as smart as them get to that conclusions? Why couldn't they get it? Why don't they see what I see? And then try to find the answers that bridge that gap, that makes sense for them, and assume that they might be just as smart, if not smarter than us, and they might have good reasons for their take and for not getting what we so badly believe in.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great advice right now during the political landscape, right? like, hey, why do you believe what you believe? And like, talk through it. Like, we used to have those conversations, right? I mean, it feels like we've trust has been lost, and part of it's probably in the messaging, right? Dr. Michael Gerharz, so great to have you on today. Tell them where they can find you.
The easiest way is to head over to my website, michaelgerharz.com, Gerharz, one word, michaelgerharz.com, where you find pointers to the blog, to the podcast, to the book, and to everything else, how to contact me, or just connect on LinkedIn. I'd happy to connect with you and follow your journeys.
Excellent. For everybody else, thank you for joining us on the Winners Find a Way show. We are live every Thursday at 11 a.m. Oh, no, I'm sorry, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. And that is on LinkedIn Live, Facebook Live, and our Leadershipity YouTube channel live, and our podcast stream on all the major networks coming out Friday with a new show. Excited as we move towards episode 150 coming up. And thrilled to see our 100,000 download month again. It's third month in a row since the launch of the book of Leading Winning Teams. Thrilled to have 1% guests, just like Dr. Michael Gerharz today. And we'll see you next time on the Winners Find a Way.